My name is Philip Kocsis. My company is EnviroShore Systems, and our company is dedicated to reversing erosion, which is a worldwide problem. In solving a worldwide problem, the severity of the erosion problem requires better long-term solutions, and beach stabilization is the key to success for all the subsequent remediation efforts. So, the sediment system. A natural coastal sediment system consists of sediment sources, sediment transport processes, and the sediment sinks, where the sediment accumulates, such as beaches and tidal flats. Left to itself, a natural coastal sediment system is constantly on the move, reaching an equilibrium between sediment supply and sediment loss. The littoral drift up and down the coastline plays a key factor in carrying and depositing the sand in these lower energy areas and beaches. The EnviroShore stabilization system is engineered to reduce, absorb, and redirect energy, forcing the sand to drop out of suspension, reversing previous erosion. More on that after. There's a loss of equilibrium. This natural equilibrium is greatly affected by man's activities and periodic weather events. In the last 40 to 50 years, however, there has been an acceleration of severe beach erosion everywhere in the world. This is a worldwide problem. For millennia, this process was relatively stable, but in recent history, we see severe erosion begetting more erosion. It's a downward spiral that is difficult to reverse. Later in this presentation, I'll explain to you how this can be reversed through engineering. Next is a sand budget. The sand budget in any system includes the transfer of sand between the dunes, the beaches, and the shore face. On an eroded beach, the equilibrium state is continuously being established at a lower and lower sand budget level due to sand volume losses from erosion. Greater erosion causes a steeper beach face, which in turn allows more wave energy to hit closer to shore, exacerbating further erosion. Where ecosystems are degraded, it is imperative to first address the underlying causes before venturing out to rehabilitate or restore ecosystems. To illustrate this point, it would make little sense to spend energy and resources on dune restoration if the cause of the degradation continues to exist, such as severe beach erosion and a lack of sufficient onshore wind-blown sand. Such efforts would likely lead to failures or short-lived successes. The first step is to reestablish the beach stabilization and accretive conditions to provide the constant supply of sand required. After the area is stabilized and erosion is stopped, healthy beaches will return. Only then should you proceed with secondary fortifications like planting of endemic species to further stabilize and fortify the newly acquired beaches and dunes. So, addressing the problem. The historical choice was hard versus soft solutions. For decades, jetties were built to keep coastal inlets from filling in. Coastal bluffs were encased in concrete revetment or boulder riprap to keep them from eroding in an attempt to protect the houses perched on top. Much of this armoring was done in the latter half of the 20th century, which coincides with the massive acceleration of erosion issues we see today. The push for shoreline hardening generally follows major hurricanes and unfortunately are still permitted under emergency exception permits. Most areas in the US and Europe now forbid new permits for these beach hardening methods, as they are known to cause detriment and loss to adjacent areas. Such hardening methods are known as coastal armoring. While trying to keep the coastal landforms in place by armoring them, humans have inadvertently caused the sandy shoreline to disappear even faster. This is due to wave energy reflection that drives all the wave energy into the surrounding areas. The most affected areas are soft, sandy footings of the seawall, where eventually causing scouring and the seawall to fail. This is precisely why you never see a healthy beach in front of a seawall. In fact, the only solution to a failed seawall is usually a bigger, deeper seawall. At EnviroShore Systems, we understand that emulating nature's way is the best way. Fortunately, there is a solution to all of the issues we previously discussed through thoughtful engineering. When looking at such a complex problem with many variables, such as beach erosion and the subsequent destruction of the surrounding ecological systems, you need to understand the first point of failure in the chain. Otherwise, you're only treating the symptoms of the problem and not the underlying cause. Beach renourishment, sometimes referred to as pump and dump and dredging, is a prime example of a temporary fix for treating a symptom and not addressing the underlying cause. The renourishment dumping process is the exact opposite of how nature would gradually build a properly stratified beach. Thus, a renourished beach is inherently unstable and susceptible to erosion. It's also highly undesirable from an environmental perspective for both the sand collection site, the donor site, and the target beach being buried. Wherever there is a severe erosion condition, we are witnessing a negative feedback loop in nature. As the beach erodes, the beach face angle steepens, and the near shore is subjected to ever-increasing wave energy, thus accelerating more erosion. An ESS, EnviroShore Stabilization System, interrupts this negative feedback loop and stops erosion immediately after installation by mimicking the geology of a healthy beach platform, inducing natural sand replenishment and creating a stable beach over time. This is a worldwide problem. Our coastlines are being eroded and degrading an important buffer zone, while increased storm surges have caused significant property damage and intensifying risks to our groundwater. No matter where you live, the natural ecosystems in the area, the dunes and beaches, coral reefs, mangroves, the seagrass meadows, the marsh plains have all been degraded to some extent and are no longer able to provide the protection they once did. Degraded and stressed coral reefs in the tropical areas, or the shellfish reefs, like the oyster reefs we have around here in the northern areas, also means there are less fish and sea life nearby, impacting livelihoods and food security. This current state is a complex issue because everything is connected, but the damage is also reversible. By fixing the underlying cause, you are helping to mitigate the negative effects further down the line. ESS and opportunities for action for society. Engineers must think systems. Healthy coastlines are intricate, interconnected systems. The goal should be to think in systems when solving issues like beach erosion and restoring functional resilience. Coastal ecosystems must be better protected by smarter regulations and increasing area-based conservation to halt net loss. We must improve the condition of critical coastal habitats such as sand dunes, salt marshes, mangroves, seagrass, coral, and shellfish reefs. Large-scale habitat restoration and reestablishing natural coastline and hydrological processes are all required to repair many damaged coastal ecosystems. Next, we must consider the permitting and use of innovative systems like the EnviroShore stabilization system. Fortunately, using nature-based and hybrid approaches are increasingly being tried, accepted, and used to support coastal infrastructure, increase resilience to changing climate conditions, support sustainable development of local communities, and reverse the loss of critically endangered ecosystems. Gray or green measures. Soft shore and low environmental impact methods are always preferred where possible. An ESS system is specifically designed and engineered to address each specific location's problems based on the location's parameters and condition. The underlying technology of our ESS method was classified by the leaders at the 2001 Soft Shore Convention in Europe as a soft method. In their report, they said, the European scientific community considers an ESS type undercurrent stabilizer technology a soft shore, low impact type of remediation. Although the underwater grout, the cement-like material used in construction of the ESS, would seem hard, the system is engineered as a whole to reduce, absorb, and redirect energy into large, slow-motion vortices within the ESS, thus causing sand to be deposited in these lower areas. This construct allows for much greater area of benefit to be achieved from a single installation location. ESS systems are designed to emulate the geology of a healthy beach and nearshore without interrupting the sand-carrying longshore currents. Unlike jetties and groins, the ESS is permeable. Eventually, the ESS is buried under new accreted sand and acts almost like a skeleton in providing structure and support for the beach. These ESS beaches become far more durable and resilient than any artificially nourished beach because the ESS uses wave energy to induce properly stratified deposition of sediment in the rebuilding process, similar to how nature originally built that beach. Proper stratification. This is an important point. When surf energy is high, only larger, more stable materials are deposited. As the nearshore slope becomes shallower, less wave energy reaches the beach, allowing for smaller particles to deposit. As the target beach slope gets shallower and more proficient at holding this material, it widens and becomes a feeder beach for adjacent areas and provides a constant supply of sand for the back beach and dune. Unlike sourcing sand from elsewhere, an ESS system captures compatible sand from the near-shore system. ESS eliminates many negative effects associated with other methods. ESS captures the same sand that originally created and fed the target beach. eliminating compatibility issues, ever-increasing material and transport costs, donor site requirements and regulations, and the environmental damage that occurs during the collection of the material, usually some type of a suction dredge. ESS continues working when other methods fail. We recommend cement-filled tubes over the sand-filled tubes, both for rigidity, making the system work more consistently and resilient to high energy events such as storms, and monetary considerations. If a sand-filled component tears, the entire engineered system is degraded and becomes inefficient. Concrete is only slightly more difficult to pump into the tubes during installation and will last for decades, particularly after the ESS system is buried under new sand. In the event of a massive storm where the beaches are damaged or an ESS system is completely uncovered, the ESS structure will immediately resume the accretion process once conditions return back to normal. In fact, unlike a dredged beach, higher energy events like the occasional storm will benefit an ESS installation because the increase in wave energy will transport more sand from deeper offshore locations, providing additional sand source to the system that is not typically available during calm periods. This influx of additional material will be captured by the ESS, restoring the beach more quickly. This is the exact opposite of a beach renourishment project. If this were an artificially renourished beach and the sand washed away, the local authorities would have no other choice but to fund another project to replace the lost sand at significant cost to taxpayers and property owners. This is why we say ESS is a long-term, permanent, and cost-effective solution compared to other methods. Attached below is a summary list of an EnviroShore systems versus alternative remediation method chart based on the most common questions we get. And you can download this transcript to view the chart. I'm not going to go through each one because they're rather long. Let's talk about an ESS system. Engineering components of an ESS system. There are essentially four components in the physical system. Each is necessarily engineered and designed to the specific installation location. Engineering, bathymetric, current, wind and wave data, along with historical landmass, and even satellite imaging and analysis tools are required when designing an ESS. The basic components are as followed. Main tubes are generally the longest and largest of the beach perpendicular components. Their primary function is to create low energy areas. These slow-moving vortices dictate where the initial sand will collect. Side stabilizer tubes. These are the smaller sets of tubes that run alongside the main tubes. Their function is to prevent scouring action, undercutting the ESS systems, and to help align the system during installation. The top tubes, we sometimes refer to these as high energy tubes. These are shorter than the main tubes and reside on the top of the main tubes. They are primarily used for added beach protection in very rough areas. The back system. This is the only part of the system that runs parallel to the beach. It serves as the interlocking anchoring structure for the rest of the system and has the added benefit of helping to prevent seaward movement of the beach when properly positioned. I hope you found this discussion interesting. I would like to thank the esteemed Dr. Antonio de la Cruz for inviting me to share our coastal erosion solution, the EnviroShore Stabilization System, and to thank him for years of assistance and sharing his scientific expertise with our team. To learn more about EnviroShore Systems, our company, and the history of the technology, please visit our website at www.enviroshoresystems.com. Thank you.